Thank you, Acting President. I rise to make a contribution to the Gambling Legislation Amendment Bill 2023 on behalf of Legalise Cannabis Victoria. This bill forms part of a wider suite of vital gambling reforms. Among a number of changes, this bill enables better regulation of casinos where their licence is cancelled, suspended or surrendered, and it delivers on the government's commitment to mandatory closure periods for gambling machine areas from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. These reforms come at a time when data from the Alliance for Gambling Reform, published in October, shows poker machine losses in pubs and clubs have surged nationally and at an all-time high of $14.54 billion. We already know that Australians lose more to gambling machines than any other country in the world, causing immense loss. These losses are inextricably linked with violence, breakdown, mental and physical health issues. The need for intersectional harm minimisation is clear. Problem gambling proposes a significant cost to the community. The gambler suffers, their family and friends suffer, and do so many other people and institutions. Gambling ruins lives. This was made clear in the 2021 Royal Commission into Casino Operator and Licence. The Commission quickly uncovered widespread illegal, dishonest, unethical and exploitative behaviour by Crown Melbourne. Legalise Cannabis Victoria is concerned about the government's decision to exclude Crown Casino from the mandatory closure periods. The advice we received from the government suggested that there were several reasons for this decision, and they included existing break-in-play rules for casinos, the economic role of Crown Casino, and the unique regulation the casino is subject to off the back of the Royal Commission into the Casino Operator and Licence. I have been someone who has worked in casinos as well as gaming rooms, and I have seen the devastation that gambling addiction can cause, particularly for people who are from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Gambling often provides a sanctity and a place where people can connect, and even if that is connecting with a machine. And I have seen instances where a young man, and I can tell you he was a young man because I had to check his ID when he came into the establishment. He came in and he gambled his paycheck away. It was over $1,000, and then he decided that he was so desperate to put more money back into the machine, he decided to crawl underneath the barrage where we would keep the money, and he stole back about $3,000. Now, unfortunately, he went to prison for that, and I often think about him because I was the one to hand the police the schooner glass that had his fingerprints on it to make sure that he was charged with that offence. And all I can remember is how desperate he was that day and why it was so dangerous why we continue to allow such a harmful, socially acceptable practice as gambling. So I'm compelled to turn back to the Royal Commission, and namely the findings that the way Crown Melbourne dealt with many vulnerable people who have a gambling problem, and I find it quite damning. Staff failed their obligations and multiple promotions targeted vulnerable people or financially constrained people, such as the elderly and people from culturally and linguistically diverse communities. Stakeholder evidenced how these exploitative promotions led to some participants not being able to afford essential medication. As noted, the government has provided reasons for their decision not to include Crown Casino in mandatory closure periods. But we must not and cannot accept that without acknowledging that the economic contribution of Crown Casino is too often off the backs of the most vulnerable, even in light of the reforms being undertaken. Crown is still a gambling venue of massive proportions and contributes in spades to the ongoing harms of gambling in our society. In engaging with stakeholders on this bill, we were advised that a number advocated for poker machine rooms to be closed from midnight to 10 a.m. This push was backed by evidence showing that harm increases from midnight to 2 a.m. and then significantly increases after 2 a.m. Consequently, we will support the Greens' amendments to extend the mandatory closure periods to 12 a.m. to 10 a.m, recognising their potential to minimise harm. We would also encourage this government to perhaps consider a middle ground of 2 a.m. to 10 a.m, noting the significant increase in harm experienced between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Now turning to the amendments of the opposition. They desire to create an exclusion zone from the mandatory closure period for any approved venue within a 3-kilometre radius of the casino. We do not support these amendments and believe they do little to minimise harm. Instead, they reduce the benefits of the mandatory closure period by excluding some of the busiest venues in our state. We again want to acknowledge that this bill is part of a wider package of gambling reforms, and we look forward to monitoring the government's progress in this space. You can be assured that we will continue to push to strengthen the government's work to address the evils of the gambling industry.